Okay, today on the research, and this is the most significant research and news to create your most beautiful, healthy life. And today we're going to talk about some of the latest fatty liver research. This came out online on February 15th, and we're going to review it today. And we do, as we do every single Thursday at 12 o'clock noon. And I am your host on this. I am Dr. Ray Wisniewski. And let's just bring that up here. And I want to remind everybody we do have our program is actually every single Thursday at 12 noon. And we're going to upload this onto the NutriMostScience.com website. So it's going to be on NutriMostScience.com. You'll be able to search it. There's going to be some, that's going to, after each broadcast, we will be uploading that, and you'll be able to see that. Today we've got some great things. As I said, this was available online February 15th. It was from Cell Metabolism. And this is a new process. It's basically just a new way of looking at this, and as far as fatty liver goes and how you can take care of it. And one of the things that I like to do is bring you information that can help you in your daily life. It's about what are the things you can do. You know, it's one thing, it's taking research and putting it into action. And it's going to be, what is the action that we can use to do this? So what I want to do first is just take you through a little bit about fatty liver. And let's just see if we can. And as I said, this is the most significant research and news. And we will be, we stream live on Thursdays at noon, as well as every Saturday. You can watch our broadcast. It's a 1-hour broadcast from 9 a.m. till 10 a.m. Eastern Time every Saturday. And today we're going to talk about the latest fatty liver research. So let's just take a look at this. When we talk about fatty liver, it's non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. And what this is it is the excess accumulation of fat in the liver without alcohol. And the reason is alcohol allows us to increase fatty acid, really fats in the liver. And that's one of the things you'll see people who are alcoholics, they'll tend to have high liver fat. So one of the things you can use, there are some blood tests. There's a high ALT test and a high AST can be an indicator of that. We can see it with ultrasound. Of course, there's tissue biopsy, which is one of the best and easiest, or one of the most exact. However, it's not the easiest. Okay, we don't really, and you really don't need that. But what you have to understand, if this continues, when you have fat in the liver, that excess fat can eventually create more inflammation. The more inflammation, and fat itself is inflammatory. And as inflammation increases, it can cause scarring. And as you get scarring, now you can end up with, cirrhosis of the liver. And remember, cirrhosis, you can end up, that's going to cause jaundice, ascites, some confusion. And the thing about this is about 75% of all obese people actually have fatty liver. In fact, most people, they have no symptoms of it. They'll go in for something else and find out that they have fatty liver. It affects, it's relatively common. It affects about 20% of Americans and is rising. Well, just think about it. It's going to be more, they say 20%, but those are on lower numbers of obesity. As obesity increases, it just continues to go up. And it's going to be made worse with medications. You can have virus, you can have autoimmune liver diseases can cause an issue. So let's just take you through this. And as we said, it's the fatty acid intake when it exceeds fatty acid output. Okay, so it's really about these free fatty acids, which I'll go through, because what happens with a normal liver is it takes up fatty acid. There's the fatty acid intake. In other words, there's increase in fatty acids. So how do you increase fatty acids? You can get fatty acids just in the diet. I mean, it's fatty acids basically are lipids, they're fats, they're triglycerides. So you can get it from the diet. You can get what's known as de novo lipogenesis. De novo lipogenesis means that the body is making its own lipids. And we know that has, and there are different ways that is increased. One of the easiest is from increase in glucose, increase in fructose. But you can also get fatty acids from the fat cells themselves, from the adipocytes. So what happens is that this goes into the bloodstream, and it's these triglycerides are hydrolyzed to free fatty acids. That's then uptaken into the liver cell, and they can either become triglycerides in the liver cell, or they can be broken down through oxidation. And when it's broken down from oxidation, what's going to happen is that becomes that breakdown of the free fatty acids, that breakdown of that basically creates ATP, carbon dioxide, water. So it's the formation of energy. It's a citric acid cycle. And you'll see that. And so once you understand this, because it's going to either, when you have this increase in fatty acids inside the liver cells, you're either going to be creating lipids, you're going to be creating triglycerides, is what that is, or it's going to be oxidized to energy, or it can leave the liver as VLDLs, which is very low density lipoproteins. And so this is and I want to review this new research because they come up with something that's a little bit different. And it's really because what we know, see, the way that we've always known the mechanism of this to be is that you have all these free fatty acids, okay, within the body. They're in the plasma, they're in the bloodstream, they go into the hepatocytes, and you have this, if you increase the triglycerides and you decrease the oxidation, in other words, the creation of energy, then you have more fat accumulation in the liver, and that is fatty liver. And there's something that controls that. That's PPAR alpha, which is a sensor for lipid metabolism. So this PPAR is going to basically, when this is working right, it's going to, as there's excess, it is going to take if there's excess energy, in other words, there's excess calories, excess fat, it's going to increase fatty acid oxidation. So it's going to create it into energy. Now, if that's defective, if that's not functioning the way that it's supposed to, and then it's PPAR gamma, and PPAR gamma is going to take that and it's going to stimulate a decrease in fatty acid oxidation, and it's going to create fatty liver. So that's what we've always known. So when you hear people talk about, well, if you have fatty liver, what do I need to do? And what you'll always hear is that you need to lose weight. You have to go on a diet to lose weight. And there's really nothing that you can do to take care of fatty liver. That's the only known process. Yet, I can tell you this, in practice, we're seeing this on our programs. We do the NutriMost weight loss. But I do not believe, I've never believed it was just the weight loss, because we can see it on other, there were certain diets that would cause more, cause a better result with fatty liver, and diets that did not cause as good results with fatty liver. But it's really interesting, and let's go to this study that came up, because what this study did was pretty interesting. Because, and this is a small study. There was, I believe, there's only they took 10 people that they were obese and they had fatty liver, and they put them on a 2-week diet. That was it. And in 2 weeks, and they analyzed a number of different factors. I mean, probably more factors than has really ever been looked at, because they looked at, what they did was, it was a collaboration effort. And here's what they found out. Was when they restricted and put people on a low carbohydrate diet with increased protein. So it was low carb, higher protein, and this is interesting because they've done a lot of different diets, and they looked at like ketogenic diet, where you are decreasing, you have a lot more, if you just have a true ketogenic diet, which means it's just almost all fat, So the only thing you can burn is fat. You have basically almost no carbohydrates, and you're seeing what this does. They've done that years ago, and they found out that although the people would lose weight, it actually caused basically it broke the mechanism within the liver, and it could actually lead to fatty liver, which makes sense because you have a ton of free fatty acids within the body. So on this study, though, what they found out was they didn't even reduce, the people didn't even lose weight. They did what's called an isocaloric diet. In other words, they maintained the calories to maintain their weight. So they did not lose any weight on this diet. And so without losing weight, what they found out was that when they decreased the carbohydrates, and they had a relatively higher protein diet, they found out that it changed the microbiome within the bacteria. And they talk about the fact, and if you look at, what's the name of this? I'm trying to see. Let's go over to this, what we have here. If you look at the highlights of this, it says a low-carbohydrate diet improves liver fat metabolism in non-alcoholic fatty liver disease patients. The low-carbohydrate diet promotes rapid shifts in gut microbiota composition of the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease patients. In the low-carbohydrate diet, induce microbial changes that are associated with increased circulating folate. This was really interesting because it talks about that the low-carbohydrate diet increased folate-dependent one-carbon metabolism gene expression in the liver. Okay, let's go to that because this is a pretty big thing. That where they said folate-dependent one-carbon metabolism gene expression in the liver, that is the methylation pathway. Okay, so what they found is that it was strongly associated with a rapid rise in the B vitamins, and particularly these folates. And and it has to be in the right form. And that's one of the things you hear about, like MTHFR, methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase enzymes. And this is where there's breakdowns in different genes. This is this whole methylation pathway. And what they found was that this would decrease the expression of the genes that would increase fatty acid synthesis. So that when they did this diet, it would decrease genes for fatty acid synthesis, and then it would increase the genes that were associated with fatty acid oxidation and this methylation pathway, the folate-dependent one-carbon metabolism gene that was in the liver. And this is the thing, that they found that the diet was independently related to, even though they didn't lose weight, because it's always been that you have to lose weight. If you have fat on the body, if you can lose weight and you can lose fat in the liver, that would be a key thing. But what they found out was that this diet without losing weight created rapid and dramatic changes in fatty liver, and it also affected a large number of other cardiometric factors. When we talk about those are we talk about the cholesterol ratios and the triglyceride ratios and all these different factors. And the thing about that is, see, I really think that it's even more so than the carbohydrates. I am telling you that you have to stay away from like high fructose corn syrup. You have to stay away from fructose in fruit is different than when you have these corn starches and these high fructose corn syrup and things like that. However, if you have fatty liver disease, I'd stay away from. I try to stay away from as much as I could fructose. Fructose has been more involved even than glucose, and there's a reason we may do a thing on that. But one of the things that these researchers stressed was it's not a one size fits all diet with any of these things. But I would also say that it's really maintaining, and what we know is with this, what we absolutely know is that when somebody is insulin resistant, as insulin increases, so is fatty liver. So is de novo lipogenesis, which is the production of lipids. from various things. And so we need to maintain. So when we talk about insulin sensitivity, when we talk about leptin sensitivity, and I would throw in there the FGF21 sensitivity. So of those three, those are so primary, and that helps regulate the PPAR alpha, so that it's going to that's that sensing mechanism. By the way, that is so dramatically involved with FGF21, fibroblast growth factor 21. And we see it involved with brown fat formation. We see it, and all these tend to be related. See, it's when there's a breakdown in biochemistry. That breakdown in biochemistry is the breakdown of, number one, when the body is, these sensing factors aren't functioning. Well, one of the primary sensing factors is whether you're going to, and by the way, this is an interesting thing that what we've shown, and even on that we've shown that fatty liver, by the way, this is going to sound crazy. It's actually protective of the liver. See, if you weren't able to produce it into fat, those excess free fatty acids would become hepatotoxic to the liver. It would actually kill liver cells. All right. So the body, and the body does this so often. You'll hear me talk about the fact that if somebody is that they keep gaining weight, they're gaining weight just, and you see this with a lot of times people who are these like morbidly obese. I mean, like they're really, really big. You take somebody that's like younger, and I mean, they come in and they're 450, 550 pounds. You think 550 pounds. We know how diabetes and obesity are interrelated. Well, what we find out is that a lot of times people who are like 550 pounds, they're not diabetic. And people, they'll come in and they'll say, "This will shock you, doc." And I know what they're going to tell me immediately. And that is that I'm not diabetic. I may be this heavy, but I'm not diabetic. And the reality of it is that it's because of the fact that they become, as long as they can take excess sugars and convert them into fats in the body's working. They're not going to be diabetic. It's when they can't do that, when that mechanism stops, and they can't take the excess sugars and convert them to fat. Now they have there's excess sugars in the body. As long as you can take it, if it's excess sugar and you can convert it into fat, you are not going to be diabetic. So in a sense, you can say that obesity to some extent is a protective mechanism for diabetes. If it's functioning properly, you just keep gaining weight, you just keep ballooning until there's going to be, you can have other factors though, there's going to be other issues that can come up, but the other thing there's going to be, and the other thing that can occur with that is that at some point that has to stop. I mean, at some point you can't continue to do that. Well, it's really the same way with when we take a look at this. It's really the exact same. It's the exact same way, because as long as the body can make it fatty liver, it's not toxic to it. And I would say that even occurs. That increased inflammation, it's making more fat, which is inflammatory. But when it can't make it even enough, then you're going to have that hepatotoxicity, and that can create the cirrhosis down the road. But this is a new mechanism. So what does this tell us? Let's take a look at what are the things that we can do. Number one, let's stay away from increased sugars, glucose and fructose, and in particularly these artificial sugars, the table sugar, the sucrose, the high fruit, any of these fructose corn, these high fructose corn syrups and things like that. Any corn syrup, you see corn syrup, stay away from it. Cornstarch, stay away from it. Those are all. These are going to really cause some real problems. Alcohol is going to accelerate this dramatically. In fact, that's We talked about non-alcoholic steatohepatitis is also alcoholic steatohepatitis. That's fatty liver from alcoholics or from alcohol. So that's one thing we can do. The other thing we can do is let's take a look at our diet. Let's keep it balanced. I've never been one. You see a lot of people, it's just high fat, high fat, high fat. I've said it's all about balance. Anything we do with the NutriMost, wellness and weight loss, when we talk about whether it be the NutriMost Forever program, whether it be the NutriMost weight loss program, you'll see that I am not one for just like a super excess in fat to try to get you into a ketogenic state. That's not the way that you do it. What you do is you maintain the biochemistry. What you do is you maintain the body's the metabolism in a proper function, and that allows that to do that. So one thing that we know, if you have when we talk about a low carbohydrate, if you're eating, don't think that, I can't eat vegetables now because those are all carbs. That's totally different. Okay, it's totally different. You can eat a normal size protein. You have a meat, piece of fish, whatever on your plate. You can fill the rest of that plate up with vegetables. If you take a look at how many actual calories, how many sugars, how many, when we talk about calories or in that, calories of carbs, it's these high fructose corn syrups. It's the sugars. It's the processed. That's what I believe. If you do have fatty liver, you may want to cut back a little bit. But not that you won't need to any large extent. And we do know that you don't want to go into just a high fat diet as well. That's going to cause problems as well. You have the excess in the fatty acids into the bloodstream, and what that does is that breaks the sensing mechanism. That breaks the PPAR alpha, creates a PPAR gamma, and that has some problems with that. Okay, so today was, let's just go to that again. The latest in fatty liver research. So some of the other things, by the way, some of the other things we do know, it's really about your microbiome. And I think that taking a good B vitamin, and by the way, when we talk about a good B vitamin, the one thing that you don't want to take just, you don't want to take synthetic supplements of any kind. You really want to limit that anything synthetic in your body as much as you can. And today you're able to do that. So you want to have the B vitamins in the right form. Not just not folic acid, it's which is a synthetic that causes some problems. It's in the methyl tetrahydrofolate form. And we take a look at that. It's the same with your, and what's going to happen is it's going to decrease interleukin 6. It's going to decrease tumor necrosis factor alpha. It's going to optimize. We want to use molecular hydrogen. It's going to do a great job. When you're eating real foods, you're creating a better microbiome. Your body needs, for instance, DHA. DHA is critical in the body. I talk about that with vegetarians. They don't have enough DHA typically. We do have a plant-based DHA for vegetarians. It comes from plant-based algae, and you need that because that is the semiconductor that runs the electrical system within the body. That's the backbone of the body. There's so much that's involved with this. And remember, you can even take the free fatty acids. They can also become even like prostaglandins. They can be there's anabolic effects and there's catabolic effects of that. We can either build those up into lipoproteins that's necessary for the cell membranes. We can break those down. We can put them in. They can actually become part of the hormonal system. Is part of that. Some of the eicosanoids, the prostaglandins is one of the most common, the leukotrienes. There's just all kinds of, different effects of that. But we want to have balance, and balance, to maintain balance, we're going to need leptin sensitivity, insulin sensitivity. It's when those break first. And that's basically what this has come down to. It's when that's broken. And it's interesting because that diet, a protein with limited carbohydrates initially, and that's one of the things we'll do initially to try to recapture our leptin sensitivity. Remember, when you're leptin sensitive, you're not gaining weight, your foods taste better, You don't have you actually dream better typically. You do not have you don't have that tiredness after you had a large meal. You don't gain weight abnormally in the wrong places. For instance, people that when that's off tend to gain maybe just in their belly or just on their hips, or they just gain abnormally. So that's one of the factors with that. Because remember, leptin controls, manages, and directs energy. That's its job. And so that's all part of it. This is part of the energy management system. So you have to first break, you can go through all these different research studies, but when you break the biochemical process, and particularly leptin sensitivity, and that's everything that we do is all about maintaining biochemical balance, maintaining leptin sensitivity, maintaining insulin sensitivity, maintaining FGF21 sensitivity, and it's all about optimizing the cell. That's why we look at it from a molecular perspective, cellular perspective, and a metabolic perspective. The metabolic perspective is really the last. It's how everything affects those hormones, neurotransmitters. And what we're finding out is that it's when the body's functioning normally, and that's what it's so important when we say it's functioning normally, when that you're sensing that, then you're going to increase fatty acid oxidation when you have an excess. But if you continue to have more of an excess, there's going to be a problem. So the molecular hydrogen will help. The B vitamins, I tell you what, one of the things for we have our at NutriMost, we use the NutriMost whey protein, which is has the prebiotics in it, has probiotics in it, has just about all the best of the best. It's going to be all the necessary to create on a live source, not just adding vitamins. They'll have all the vitamins, minerals, the synergists, the active cofactors, and active transporters. They're going to allow the body to function the way it needs to function. So you have basically everything in there. It's all designed to create a healthy microbiome. And I think what you have to remember is when that's normal, when your microbiome's good, your body, you have a B vitamin factory within your body. So you can take in the B vitamins, like we have our NutriMost Plus, which is great since it's all in a fully reduced form of the B vitamins in their natural state. But when you have that microbiome functioning right, man, you got a great B vitamin factory, and you're even making about 12 liters of molecular hydrogen per day, which is, we talk about the molecular hydrogen with hydromolecular. So these are all going to help you. Hey, hope I gave you some information today, and our goal is to give you, present you the most significant research and news to create your most beautiful, healthy life. Please try to do everything you can to keep the body balanced, keep your body in a state where it's biochemically balanced. You don't create that imbalance using all natural foods. Remember, let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. And we hope to bring you that information so that you understand that better. Or you can go through and do the NutriMost intelligence analysis, which will do a root cause analysis to determine what's going to help your body the best. And I promise you, I will also do the same. Thank you for joining us.